the Advancing Energy Podcast, featuring topics and trends on precision power conversion, measurement, and control solutions.
Hi, welcome back to Advancing Energy Podcast. I'm Jing, Business Development Manager for PowerInsight by Advanced Energy. Today, I'm here with my colleague, Andrew.
Hi, I'm Andrew. I'm on the PowerInsight team as the Senior Data Analyst.
So PowerInsight was previously mentioned at an earlier episode when Sarah and Lauren were talking about a range of offerings by AE's global service. So today we're going to zoom in PowerInsight and really unpack how it adds value to our customers. I think we're going to start by walking through a common customer pain points.
Yes. So most common situation we run into is our customers will have some sort of issue on their process or their tool, and they don't have the data they need to really unpack it and identify the core issues. So we provide a mechanism for helping them to collect that data, analyze that data, and hopefully find a solution.
Yeah, that's right. And to keep the operations running, the engineers have historically relied on either just power cycle the generator or swap it off or calling AE's field engineering team for help. But this would usually require scheduling chamber time, yes, and then try to recreate the issue and manually log all the data. And that manual workflow can be very painful. You would have to configure multiple laptops, and then you would have to generate the data files, and hopefully you save everything correctly. And when you review, and you would have to rely on the files again so that the original time series was correctly preserved. So the whole process could be very slow and clunky, and it's way too easy for things to go wrong.
Yes, so we have tried to address all those issues by bringing everything into one box. So with our system, you plug into the service ports of each of the units you want to collect data on. Everything is then collected into a single place, single database that's secure on site. And then it allows us to visualize and really look at that data in syncs with one another.
Yeah, according to our recent deployment, simply by having the contextual data available for review can help reduce the root cause analysis time by up to 90% from days or even weeks to a couple of hours. And also we can help prevent unnecessary returns. Another very important piece of voice of customer is that they would like everything to be flexible on how they deploy the solutions.
Yeah, so once we're deployed and all that data is flowing, now we've made it very easy to see that data in near real time. And there's no software required. Everything's contained on our box, so they can get to that data and visualize it and start to explore that information. Yeah. And the nice thing is we run in parallel to the system, so there's no retrofit required for our generators and so forth. You can just plug right in. We don't interfere with control at all. We're really just polling for that information so that we can do a deep dive thereafter.
Yeah. That flexibility is key. You know, the customers can start safely and very flexible on the scope of the project. And also our architecture is not just designed for today. It also reserves space for future custom algorithms. That's right. So that we can custom develop logic and install it directly back to our architecture and then let the actionable insight be available to the customers.
That's right. So the primary capabilities that we have is once that data is flowing, we now have acquisition and visualization. So that gives you a real quick look into the data. And that leads us, particularly on the scientist side, on the analysis side, the ability to do what I call exploratory data analysis. And this is really to get a feel for what we're seeing, looking for anomalies, differences, and so forth. And then we transition into working with our subject matter experts. And that can be the end customer, that can be AE personnel. You know, we have a lot of experts in this company about power delivery. And then we can start to develop metrics and algorithms to hunt out these signals. And then under the best cases, we can actually push that back to the system so that the end customer or the user can see that information coming up in near real time.
Great. So can you walk us through an example, like how the data scientists are leveraging PowerInsight to develop custom algorithms, how the process looks like?
Sure. So as I described, once the data are flowing, we have this ability to now collect not just the the data that is typically picked up by the OEM or the tool, but also a lot more information that is buried inside of our devices. This can be restricted data, parameter settings, a full and complete history of faults and warnings and statistics, and then one of our most valuable capabilities is the ability to capture what we call fast stack events, or these are high resolution captures for very, very quick process steps. So this is down in the microseconds or tens of nanoseconds. We build up a history from that, and then, as I said before, we work with our subject matter experts, and we start rolling the clock backwards and looking at all these different events, looking for those anomalies. And then with their guidance, we almost always can develop a metric or a potential algorithm to either anticipate events coming or to at least monitor for it and notify on them. And then we have the infrastructure available that we can then take that knowledge and put it back into the system so that the end customer can get some actionable intelligence as these events are occurring, so they can respond accordingly.
Great. So this means as soon as the data is recorded, it could be leveraged in so many different ways to address different customer needs. It could be predictive maintenance, or it could be optimizing the power parameters to improve yield. And also, by converting the raw data into algorithms, it actually provides a way to protect intellectual property by abstracting or masking the underlying raw data while still providing actionable insights.
Yes.
So can you give us an example how we converted raw data into actionable insights?
Sure. So we had a great case come to us, actually internal from our reliability team, where they learned of our capability of being a flight recorder. And so they proposed that we have a metric for preventative maintenance to kind of schedule for when a unit should be serviced. But he recommended that if we can see how the product is actually being used, we can leverage that information to make a more refined or an enhanced model. And the way we did that is we combined how we record how the customer is using their data, and then we combine that with some vendor reliability curves. And that allows us to see how the components within the unit are aging, and then we can use that to make our forecast, if you will, for service time more precise. And I kind of make it the equivalent of, are you highway driving versus city driving your unit? And that really influences the expected lifespan. So this came internal. We built up an algorithm. We've validated it in the field, and now we're make it available to our customers. And what's nice about that particular case is that the model's the same, but it uses an individual customer's data. So one customer might drive hard and another customer might drive softly, and it auto adjusts. So we're taking full advantage of machine learning techniques for this.
Oh, great. This is exciting to hear that we're leveraging the latest AI technologies to drive direct impact. Well, Andrew, I really enjoyed our conversations today. And also, I think our listeners got some great insight into PowerInsight, specifically that the lightweight approach that it unlocks all the data on the power delivery system, and also dedicated data team to help address that specific need. Thank you for taking the time to speak with me today.
My pleasure.
Thank you for tuning in. Please make sure to like this video and subscribe to this channel for more episodes. Bye.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Advancing Energy Podcast. Be sure to subscribe.